So I shot my first wedding video on the Sony ZV-E10 with the Sigma 30mm 1.4 lens. It was surprising, actually. I made some mistakes, but for the most part, I love how it came out, and the customer was very happy. So as far as my build went, we used the Sony ZV-E10. As you can see, it's the camera I'm using right now. Sigma 1.4 30mm lens. It's fantastic lens. We had that wrapped in a smallrig cage, the one with the grip. It also performed very well. Definitely changed the ergonomics of the camera and made it by far better than using it without it. Gave you better grip, made it a little bit heavier for handheld shots, which is a good thing. Everybody that knows that they're, the heavier your rig is, the more stable it is, right? We also used a SanDisk 128 gigabyte. It's the SanDisk Extreme Pro or something like that. We did end up using about 60 gigabytes worth of footage, and that was all shot in 1080p 60. I would have shot it in 4K, but the Sony ZV-E10 does not have 4K 60, and I definitely wanted that. Whenever I was out filming, I wanted to be able to slow that footage down, which I did slow down most of it, so it did work out pretty well. Next, we used the Fujitech Scorp C gimbal, which is a very budget gimbal, but it definitely packs a punch for how much it cost. I paid around $280 for it, and it was worth every single penny that I paid for it. This gimbal performed well all day long, and not only that, I was there for 14 hours using the gimbal, and I only used about 50% of the battery on it, and that was with it actually plugged into my camera. It wasn't charging my camera or anything, but it was actually controlling my camera from the gimbal, which was awesome. We also used actually this Zoom H1N to record all of our vocals from the actual ceremony itself, which was another plus. But some of the pros of using the Sony ZV-E10 for a wedding shoot was, one, it was lightweight, which I did add my cage, which added a little bit of weight, but good weight. It was still very light compared to a full-size camera. It does perform. It does have great image quality. As you know, the Sony A series and the ZV-E10 downsample from 6K, which is awesome. Now, I don't know if it downsamples that 6K to 1080, because I did shoot the whole thing in 1080 to get that 60 frames, but I don't know if it downsamples, but it was some pretty crisp 1080. Another pro was just ease of use. The Sony ZV-E10 is a very easy to use camera. Like I said, it's a beginner camera. Has so many features, all from a touch of a button, and I don't care what anybody says about Sony menus. You can customize all that stuff, and it makes it easy to use. Another pro is that it requires a smaller gimbal. Yeah, I used the Scorp C, which can take up to 5-pound camera, but honestly, I didn't need that. I could have used the Scorp C Mini even to actually film this wedding, and it would have worked just fine. I don't know if the battery would have lasted as long, but it definitely would have worked just fine. Another pro is that this camera is less expensive. I think I have a total of about $1,000, maybe $1,100 into this camera with the lens. That's not including the cage and audio and stuff like that, but with the Sigma lens, I have around $1,100 in this camera, which is actually, pretty freaking amazing for the quality that I got out of this video. Another pro is that it does shoot in 1080 at up to 120 frames. So I don't know why they weren't able to actually squeeze 4K 60 in there, but they were able to get 120 frames out of 1080, which was nice for the slow motion. Of course, you'll see some of that in the video itself. But let's go over some of the mistakes that I made and the cons of using this camera. So one of the mistakes that I did make was I shot an S-Log3, which everybody would, think, hey, that's not a mistake. You should do that. And the problem with doing that on the ZV-E10 brings me to my first con, is that it only shoots in 8-bit color. So since it only shoots in 8-bit color, doing S-Log3, you need a 10-bit camera to shoot an S-Log. Like, you can shoot in it all day, and I was able to fix my mistake in post, but it was not the easiest thing to do. I will say that you need the 10-bit color, trust me. Another con from using the ZV-E10, which again, this is your own personal opinion, but it does have a APS-C sensor, which you can make work in low light situations fairly well. But in my case, after it got dark that day, I did have some definite issues with the noise. Even shooting an S-Log3 definitely had some issues with the noise, which I was again able to fix a lot of that. It just didn't give me the low light performance that I was really hoping for. Like I said, I've never really used this camera for any commercial use or projects and stuff like that. I just thought this time that we should take it along and see how it would do. So that does bring to another con of low light performance. Obviously, I didn't bring any lights to this wedding at all. I bring the camera and gimbal, my camera bag. It didn't have any lights or anything like that. Bring some mic equipment and stuff like that, but it didn't have any. I didn't have any lights. Like we talked about earlier, another con is there's no 4K 60. I would love to have had that in this camera, and I don't know if the processor in this camera could actually have handled that, but I wish that they would put 4K 60 on these APS-C cameras. And I believe the FX30, the new one, I believe that one does have it, but I really think these smaller cameras should have it. Even at $800, 4K 60, I mean, our phones can do it. Why can't the cameras do it? But it wasn't a big deal. I just shot in 1080p and upscaled it in LumaFusion to 4K. It turned out great. The client loved it. It was awesome. But one of the other mistakes that I did make was I didn't have any stationary shots of the actual ceremony itself. I should have definitely either at least bring one more camera just to shoot one or two stationary shots of the actual ceremony itself. And I wish that I would have done that now. But again, with the shots that I did have, I was able to fix it. But no big deal. I did edit the entire wedding in LumaFusion on my iPad. It's not even an iPad Pro, it's an iPad Air 4th generation. Handled it beautifully, didn't have any issues with it. I shot a wedding with my Sony ZV-E10. If you'd like to take a look at that video, then you can definitely go check the link in the description, and I'll have a link directly over to that video, and you can see how the wedding actually turned out and prove that you can actually do client work, weddings, and all that other stuff with a beginner mirrorless camera. Anywho, that's gonna wrap up this video. What more can I say? Y'all have a good day, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next one.